Hey sweet friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Katelyn. I love all things DIYing and crafting. Hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps to support my channel. For today's video, I was trying to think of something fun to use that we would all have around our houses. I know this is kind of a controversial topic, ripping up books. I know that book lovers have trouble with this. This is why sometimes it's fun just to go to Dollar Tree and buy random books that you're not interested in reading. But this is also something that a lot of us probably have extra of tucked away in basements and old bookshelves. You probably have books that you're willing to use and make some fun new DIYs with them. So I really hope you enjoy it. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below. Something else that you think would be a fun challenge to try to create some DIYs with that you think that everybody else would have laying around their house. So let's go ahead and jump on into these DIYs using old books. Kicking off for DIY number one, I'm going to be using these two books from Dollar Tree. I wanted to pick the same size, so I just got ones that didn't look interested and removed the plastic cover. And then to paint these, you could go with a couple different color schemes. You can go with more of the gray set or the brown set, but pick a couple different shades, whichever one you choose, so that you can dry brush over the top of these. I just love gray right now, but the brown would be a warm choice if you wanted it to like pop off of your gray walls or something. But I'm starting by using this still colored chalk paint and going to give this a couple of coats, and then I will dry brush over it with the darker gray, and you'll see how much texture and just detail that it adds to this project. It is a little tricky because there are so many points of the books that need painted, so I did put a piece of paper in between the cover and the pages so that I didn't get it all over the pages, and then you will have to kind of rotate it and paint the spine and then flip it over to get the back. I wanted these books to coordinate and go together, but I also wanted them to be a tad bit different so they kind of pop off of each other. So for the second book, I'm using the elephant colored chalk paint, which is a dark gray color, and going to paint that as the base coat, and then I'll just dry brush the lighter color on top. And then I did go ahead and open up these books so that I could paint that little bit of red on the edges. It doesn't have to be perfect, you're not going to see inside of these, but you can see these whenever the book is shut from different angles. So I'm just trying to make sure that all the red is covered. While these books are completely drying, I went and printed off a couple of images. I tried to get something close to like a 4x6 or a little bit smaller than a 4x6, or you could measure the exact book that you got. But I tried to print off images that had a neutral color but with a pop of color. I didn't want this to just be super busy. I still wanted it to kind of go with all my farmhouse decor. So I thought these were perfect with all of the nature colors in there. They have a gray tone, but then the people in there kind of pop out because they're colorful. So I thought these two little pictures were perfect, so I just cut these off and make sure that they are going to fit. But before I paste them down, I do want to dry brush over these like I was telling you before. So this is what I do on the lighter color. I'm going to use a darker one just to kind of dry brush over these. I think it makes it beautiful and weathered looking. So apply the darker to the light, and then for the darker book, I'm going to apply the lighter color over the top to make it pop off as well. I intentionally printed my photos to be one landscape and then one up and down so that I can set the books different ways to show you how it works. But I have this beautiful little landscape photo of a little teepee that my husband and my kids made in the woods, so it's just a really cute little memory. So I'm going to apply Mod Podge to the back of this and put this down on the book, but then I'm going to go ahead and completely cover the photograph as well as the entire book with Mod Podge so that I can kind of keep the same texture and finish, and it just won't look like the picture is the only thing shiny on the book. And I'm trying to catch the light so you can see how gorgeous the finish on this is. It just makes it beautiful and looks like it was made on there. But I wanted to add a frame around the photograph, so I'm going to be hot gluing down a piece of jute string. I did double up this jute string, so it's actually two pieces that I'm going to kind of twist together and then press that down on the hot glue so it does stay twisted, and then curve it around the edges or around the corners. To make sure that I get all of those fuzzy little hairs off, I'm taking a lighter and just kind of singeing that very carefully so I don't ruin my photograph, but it does get rid of all of those as well as the hot glue strands, and then it makes it look like a perfectly framed little photo on these books. I think this is a gorgeous little piece and would be so beautiful in an office, sitting on a desk, or just in your everyday home decor. But I love, love, love how they turned out. I think they are so cute. Moving on to the next DIY, I'm going to be using another book, but I'm just going to be using a few pages out of the inside of this book. So you definitely could use a few pages if you make the first DIY, or recycle books from some more of the ideas I have in this video. But I thought it was so funny because I flipped this book open and it was talking about being quarantined. I just thought that was so ironic. But anyway, so I'm looking for a page that was full of text and that made sure that it didn't have a lot of white spaces, because I do want my little planner to be full of text. So I'm going to show you how I Mod Podged this to the bottom of one of the Dollar Tree planners, and I think it turned out gorgeous. Like I say, I'm just ripping out a few pages that have mostly text on them, and then I'm going to cut them down so they do fit on the planter, and I'm going to do smaller strips so that you kind of can see the seams. And at first I was cutting these down into perfect rectangles, but you'll see a little bit later on I was ripping them, and I love the texture of that, so I'll show you how I did that a little bit later. But at first I was just doing perfectly straight up and down, but then I give it a little bit of a slant later on for the next piece so that they do kind of cross over each other. I am using a ton of Mod Podge in this video, but you always can add Mod Podge to your Walmart pickup for your grocery order, so you don't have to go inside and get it. I've been doing that and actually ordered 2 more Mod Podges so that I always have it on hand. And then for the next one, like I say, I'm just kind of slanting it and making it go over the last piece so that it does look more rugged and kind of through together. And this is the piece that I just ripped out and has that natural rugged edge, and I just think it is beautiful. So I decided to Mod Podge that down, and I loved it so much more. I wish I would have done all of them that way. It looks more like an older book, but I still really liked how it turned out. So I'm just going to make that scoot it around so that's in the front. And then after I'm applying Mod Podge underneath these, I am going and kind of putting coats of it over the top of it, because I do want this to be all sealed in so that the paper can be wipeable, and I can always dust it. I did just eyeball this and cut the pieces as I saw that they needed to, but to kind of cover up that rugged little top, I'm going to use another piece of jute string that I already had and just kind of blend it into those top pieces. It really doesn't match 100%. It's a little bit thinner, so I'm doing the same thing I did in the first project, and I'm going to twist these together to get a little bit more of a thick rope or twine piece, and then just push that down into the hot glue, and this will cover over all of those little rugged book pieces at the top, so it looks like it was actually made on there. And I really just wanted this to pop with more of like a mystical vibe with old books and this old key. I thought it was really pretty. I actually picked up a large pack of these keys from Amazon, so I'll put that link in the description down below if you want to go check them out. But you get like a large pack of them, and I've used them for the last couple years and really enjoyed them, and people always ask about them whenever I use them, so I've definitely got my money's worth, being really inexpensive and getting to use them on so many projects. So then I'm going to make a little twine bow to cover up the knot that I hung the key from, and tie that in the center to make the cute little bow, and then hot glue that over the top. And this is how it looks all put together. I think it is gorgeous, and the book adds a perfect little feel to it. Also would be cute in an office or with your everyday farmhouse decor, but I think it turned out really pretty. Since this video has been all about trying to use books because that's something I felt like we would have on hand, I wanted to use some more items I felt like we would all have on hand, and I saved a couple old pickle jars. Me and my husband enjoy like fried pickles because we used to order that out, so now we're cooking that in, so my girls have been enjoying that. Obviously we don't have it all the time, but it does use up your pickle jars really fast. So I started by peeling the label off, but then I found out that I wasn't going to waste all the time because I am going to be adding some more book pages to this. So I start using my chalk paint. I love using chalk paint to paint on glass because it adheres really nicely. Once it's dry, you can kind of scratch it off, but if you let chalk paint set on glass, it like cures or something, and it's like really hard to get it to scratch off. So just be patient and let it set for a while. I still just went ahead and made my project, but like I say, after the sets for a few hours, it will just really adhere to that glass. And I just painted the top and the bottom with my white chalk paint, and then just cut down some book pages so that they would go around the center. And then I remembered that I love that torn look, so I just left that on there and going to Mod Podge that down, but tried to make it fit perfectly in between the two grooves of the pickle jar. And this did cover the labels, so you don't have to worry about taking all of those sticky labels off. And then once again coating those book pages with a thick Mod Podge. See, I told you that I was going to be using a ton of Mod Podge, so go ahead and add that to your next pickup. I've just been enjoying how simple it is and how much it dresses up each project by adding book pages. You don't have to be great at painting or doing anything really. Just gluing these on there just makes things look so classic and so pretty and put together. I wanted a charm to hang off of this jar to kind of cover it up. I'm kind of camouflaging it because I do not want you to be able to tell that it is a pickle jar. I've seen some people like paint them and it's obvious what it was, so I'm kind of going for the look that you cannot tell. So I start by painting this with my Still color, which is a medium gray color, and I just knew it was going to be too dark, but I didn't want it white because I do want it to pop off the jar. So after I painted the gray, while it was still wet, I added in some silver lining, which is a very light color gray, and just kind of give it a streaked effect by going back and forth with the wet paint, and it just blends beautifully. Whenever I'm working with small projects like this, I love using my heat gun. It dries my paint in just a few seconds. I'll leave that link down below if you want to go check it out, but I do recommend it. And then I wanted to make a little vine to go around this. Like I say, I am kind of leaning more towards the farmhouse look, so if that's not you, you can skip any steps or make this to fit you, but I thought that a little black vine would be so beautiful, so I'm just doing a little rugged circle around there, a little wavy circle, and then adding some little branches, and then I put some leaves on it with this little Sharpie marker. I picked up a pack of these little wooden letters that I think are gorgeous. They're just a cute little solid chunky letter, and I think they're a lot nicer than the Dollar Tree flat letters. And I just picked out my little initial, and I'm going to paint that white so it pops off of here, and then after that dries, I'm going to go ahead and distress it because I love that natural wood color poking through. And then I'm going to hot glue that on the center of my little tag, and then I have to drill a hole in the top of this tag so I can hang it from a piece of jute string around the jar.
How I shiver inside doesn't show, but my nerves are inside out. It's because you're not worth less than perfection. Ooh, thought it was in my head.
I tacked the jute string in the front because I knew I was going to be covering this over. I'm using some of my nautical rope. I am completely out of Dollar Tree nautical rope. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below, what are you running out of? I would love to know. I wish so bad I could get nautical rope as well as a few more Dollar Tree items. I can't think right now, but there's several things that I've been like really needing. I have a list going, so I'm really hoping I can get out in the next little bit. And then I wanted to cover the little screw on part of the jar because I think that's what number one gives it away as a pickle jar, but I also wanted to stack this rope up really tall so that it does look like it has a bigger rim and you can't tell exactly what it is. And then after it was complete, I added some eucalyptus to the top, and I think it just makes this gorgeous vase that you can add greenery in, and once again just looks really high-end and nice, and you would never know that it was a pickle jar. The next thing I'm going to be doing is decorating this stack of books. I've already used this in a previous project, so I'm reusing my crafting stash, but I had put like grandkids' name on this as a DIY gift idea for my mom. I'll link that video down below if you want to see it, but I just kind of messed it up, so I never really wanted to give it to her. So I want to be able to reuse this, so I went ahead and painted over the spine and took off the burlap bow, and I'm just really going to dress these up. And make sure you do stay tuned because I think it is like the cutest stack of books I've ever made. I think it is adorable. So the first thing I did was want to give it a little bit of design on top. I have this musical paper from Hobby Lobby that I already had, and I'm going to Mod Podge that to the top page. I think I ended up using Mod Podge on every single one of these projects, but it's just really fun to use, especially if you're working with paper, and it's a lot nicer than just using like school glue or something like that, and then like it dries completely clear, so it does give you a nice clear coat on there. But after I got my paper stuck down on there, I go ahead and go over the top so that everything is nice and sealed in, and I will be able to dust it and wipe it off. I felt like the books looked weird just being really bright white. They needed a little bit of distressing to make it go with the musical paper, so I'm taking a little bit of my medium gray color and going to kind of pay attention to the edges and just drag my brush along the center and add those little strokes, and it just really makes it look more vintage and weathered and kind of makes it go together with the pages. So I'm using some of these little stamps and ink pad. I used this in my Mother's Day video, so I had already opened it up and used them. I knew that they weren't going to show up perfect on these books, but I just needed a stencil. I tried to print off the words originally, and then there was just no way I could really see to transfer them, so I just thought it would be perfect to use these little stamps so I could use them as a guide and then just highlight them or go over them with a regular paint marker and just really make them pop off of the books. I decided to write "Let's Stay Home." I thought that was a really cute, appropriate thing to write on there right now, but also makes it really cozy and sweet. So I'm using some more of Dollar Tree's black and white gingham or plaid little ribbon. I think this is beautiful and perfect to use on DIY projects. I forgot to mention, but when I originally put these books together for the first DIY, I actually put a little bit of hot glue in between each book, and these don't stay together perfect. Obviously, they're still kind of flimsy, but it does hold them together as one, so it's a little bit easier to work with. So then I wanted a lot of texture on these books, so then I take a little bit of my jute twine or jute string and wrap that a lot over these books, and this also holds them together really nicely. And then Dollar Tree has these gorgeous black chalkboard tags that I thought would be so cute dangling from this, as well as some of these wooden beads. I get asked about these beads a lot, but they're just garlands that I picked up from Hobby Lobby maybe in the fall. I always try to look them up online, but they're hard to find, but I know that you can order beads from Amazon. And then I'm just hanging the heart from a little piece of jute string, as well as going to thread on some of these beads on just some of the jute twine in one single row, and then I'm going to tie them at the end. I pulled the little thread apart at the end so that they would kind of have little ravels. I thought that was really pretty. I just put a large puddle of hot glue over the top of these strings to make them stay there, and then I'm just going to be reusing the burlap bow that I pulled off of this. I think it already is 1,000 times improvement. It is so adorable with those little wooden beads and heart tag hanging off of there. I did have to cut off some of the little bow tails because they were starting to ravel. So after I got all of that held down really nicely and fluffed my bow, I decided to add my little initial to the tag. I thought that was adorable. I'm using one of these little chalk markers, so I did have to let it lay there and dry a second so it wouldn't kind of run down. But after I got to hang it down, I think it turned out adorable. I just love it so much, and it looks so pretty setting on a dark stained table and just has the perfect farmhouse look to it. And then for the next book DIY, I wanted to show you a way that you can decorate these books to make them look really pretty and decorative to put on your shelf, but also use them as some secret storage so they also are really functional. So after removing the plastic covers, one of these books was red, so I do go ahead and paint that white, and then I wanted to make sure that I did get on the inside too, because like I say, whenever these are sitting on the shelf, you can see that red on the inside of these books. And then the other one was gray, so I decided to go ahead and leave that one as is because the gray color will kind of blend in with all of the neutral colors. And then after I got this completely painted and dried, I'm putting on a layer of Mod Podge, and then I found a couple of these decorative scrapbooking papers. I kind of wanted them to coordinate but be different. So I'm going to apply Mod Podge to the book as well as the back of the scrapbooking paper, and then I can just wrap this around the book. I did cut these down so that they were the right width of the book, and then whatever's left over I'm just folding over the front so it has more of a natural look to it and it doesn't just have a raw edge. I did this a little bit at a time, so like I did the front and then added Mod Podge to the spine so I could wrap the paper around so that I could have less bubbles as possible, and then went ahead and wrapped that around the back. Now this is too short to cover the entire back. I didn't mind that because these are just going to be setting up on a shelf, so no one will know that, but if that bothers you, you definitely could piece together another piece of paper. But the main goal of this is just getting it glued down really nice and tightly, and then putting another layer of that Mod Podge over the top to just really seal this off so that once again this paper becomes wipeable and can withstand like being dusted or anything like that. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is Mod Podging all of my papers together. I want them all to be a solid piece so that I will be able to cut the center out of them. So I just apply several coats of this to make sure that they all are glued down really nice and tightly, and I kept opening up the book to make sure that it was all pressed down nice and tight. You definitely could just squeeze the book together to make sure that it doesn't have bubbles in it, but then make sure that you do lift up the top flap to make sure that it doesn't get glued down as well. The next thing I'm doing is going to draw out the perfect as I can get it little rectangle so that I can use that as a guide to kind of start removing the inside of this book. I didn't go all the way to the bottom, but I did do about 3/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch to make sure that I did have plenty of room to put something down in there and the book would close. I will say that this part was a little bit more time consuming since I had to cut a few pages at a time, so I had to just keep repeating this step over and over until I got far enough down that I felt like I could store something in it. And this is what it looks like all cut out. I did tear a few pages at the top, but I'm not going to worry about it because once again, I'm using my trusty Mod Podge to completely seal this in together. I want this to be like a solid piece, so I just took a bunch of Mod Podge and kept going over this a few times until it was just like a solid piece and none of the pages were moving or wiggling at all. Whenever I first started this, I was worried that just applying a thin piece of Mod Podge or a coat of Mod Podge would not just hold everything nice and tight together, but it really does. Like a couple of coats of this and everything is really tight and not moving. I did run my finger across there a few times to make sure everything was just sealed in nice and tight and pressed all the bubbles out. And then I repeated that for the second one and applied some of this beautiful gray color scrapbooking paper over the top, so I do think that they coordinate. And then you can see opening that up, it has the secret storage in there, but these would be so pretty just sitting on a shelf and you would never know. So here I'm just demonstrating that if it had a plant on it or something, nobody would ever open that or be curious what was in there. You could hide your special little treasures in there. I think this would be a really cute little gift idea for a teen or someone young or someone older. I just think it's a really cute idea. But this is what it looks like. I think it is just a really cool, fun, functional decor piece. Thank you all so much for coming along with me today. I had a lot of fun. Like I say, if you don't want to rip up books, you don't want to destroy your books, don't. Just wait till you can get back out at the Dollar Tree and buy some books that you know you are not interested in reading, maybe even some older cookbooks or something so it doesn't hurt your feelings as bad. But for me, I don't mind. I don't like tearing up my books that I've purchased that I like to read, but I do not mind like older books that I'm never going to read again that I didn't enjoy, or going to the Dollar Tree and buying books that doesn't really mean anything to me and making fun DIY projects with them. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me a big thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed, and I'll see you next time. Happy crafting. Bye!